Two little girls disappear on Thanksgiving. There is no scream, no shattered glass, no kidnapper in a mask. One moment, there is food, family, laughter, and warmth. The next, there is a silence so heavy it changes every person in the room. That silence is what Prisoners is really about. Not just a kidnapping, not just a police case, not even just a missing child thriller. It is about what fear does to love. It is about what desperation does to morality. And it is about the terrifying truth that the moment someone you love vanishes, the person you thought you were can vanish too. Kaladova is a father who believes in preparation. He is religious, disciplined, serious, and always bracing for the worst. He teaches his son to shoot. He teaches him to think ahead. He believes the world rewards the people who are ready before disaster arrives. To Keller, safety is not luck. Safety is work. On Thanksgiving, Keller, his wife Grace, their son Ralph, and their young daughter Anna spend the day with family friends, Franklin and Nancy Birch and their daughters, Eliza and Joy. It is a simple, warm family gathering. Food on the table, adults talking, kids moving in and out of rooms. For a little while, it feels ordinary. Then Anna and Joy disappear. At first, nobody wants to panic. The girls must be upstairs, outside, hiding somewhere, laughing while the adults worry for nothing. But as each room is checked and each answer comes back empty, the mood shifts. People start calling their names louder. Shoes hit the pavement. Doors slam. Breathing changes. The girls are gone. Keller remembers seeing an old RV parked near the house earlier that day. It had been sitting there quietly, close enough to matter, ordinary enough to be ignored. Now it becomes the center of everything. The police arrive, and Detective Loki takes the case. Loki's calm in a way that makes other people seem frantic. He does not waste words. He does not make false promises. He does not pretend to know more than he knows. He listens, observes, and moves. Within hours, the police track down the RV and arrest the driver, a young man named Alex Jones. For a moment, it feels like this nightmare may end before it truly begins. Then the system fails to deliver what Keller needs most. Alex has the mental capacity of a child. He is frightened, confused, and unable to explain much. The RV contains no evidence strong enough to hold him. No weapon. No physical proof. No direct link that a court would trust. And without proof, the police have to release him. Keller watches the closest thing to a suspect walk free while his daughter is still missing. That is the first point where something inside him breaks. Then comes the whisper. As Alex is being released, Keller hears him say, "They only cried when I left them." It is one sentence. Maybe Alex understands it. Maybe he does not. Maybe Keller hears exactly what was said. Maybe desperation twists it into something worse. But from that moment on, Keller is certain Alex knows where the girls are, and the law is too weak, too slow, or too blind to force the truth out of him. Detective Loki keeps investigating. Keller stops trusting the process, and from there, Prisoners divides into two searches moving in opposite directions. Loki searches outward, through evidence, timelines, witnesses, patterns, and instinct. Keller searches inward, through panic, rage, pain, and the darkest corners of his own mind. Both men are trying to save the girls. Only one of them is still trying to save himself. Loki keeps pulling at every thread he can find. He revisits the neighborhood. He checks, reports. He interviews witnesses again. He follows names. He follows habits. He follows the weird little details most people miss because most people panic where he focuses. Keller cannot live at that pace. Every hour feels like violence to him. Every delay feels like betrayal. To Keller, waiting is not patience. Waiting is abandonment. So he decides to do what the law will not do. He kidnaps Alex. With the reluctant help of Franklin Birch, Keller locks Alex inside an abandoned apartment building and begins torturing him for information. This is where the movie stops being a thriller. You simply watch and becomes a moral test. You have to sit inside because Keller is not torturing Alex for pleasure. He is torturing him because he loves his daughter. That does not make it right. it makes it worse. If a monster hurts someone for fun, the evil is clear. But if a desperate father hurts someone because he believes it is the only path left to save his child, the audience is forced into a far more uncomfortable place. You are not just watching cruelty, you are watching love turn into justification. Franklin knows it is wrong. He knows that if Keller is mistaken, they are destroying a helpless man. But Franklin is also a father whose daughter is missing. Keller does not persuade him with logic. He persuades him with fear. He makes Franklin picture Joy alone, terrified, crying, and waiting for a rescue that may never come. Once that image takes hold, morality becomes harder to defend, so the torture escalates. Keller beats Alex. He starves him. He traps him in a cramped wooden box. He scalds him with hot water. Every scene pushes the viewer into the same horrifying question. If you were absolutely convinced this man knew where your child was, how far would you go? That is the genius of Prisoners. It does not ask whether Keller is a good man or a bad man. It asks whether those categories can survive extreme pain at all. At home, Grace Dover collapses under the weight of uncertainty. Sedated, barely able to function, she becomes the physical image of a person crushed by grief. Before grief even has a final shape. Nancy Birch tries to hold herself together. Franklin becomes trapped between his family's suffering and the secret room where Alex is being destroyed. Everyone in this story becomes a prisoner of something. Loki, meanwhile, starts uncovering pieces that suggest the case is larger and older than anyone realized. A priest is found murdered. Hidden in the priest's basement is the body of a man who once admitted to kidnapping children in a twisted campaign against God. That discovery changes the emotional scale of the story. This is no longer just about one bad day. It is about a history of suffering, a trail of stolen children, broken parents, and violence that has been festering for years. Then another possible answer appears. Bob Taylor. Taylor is a deeply disturbed man living in a house full of strange drawings, mazes, and signs of psychological collapse. He looks guilty. He feels connected. For a moment, it seems as though Loki has finally found the center of the nightmare. But Bob Taylor is not the center. He is another fragment, another ruined life drifting around the true horror, and that is one of the most unsettling things about this story. Evil here does not move in a straight line. It leaves wreckage behind it. It creates echoes, imitations, damaged people, and false conclusions. Every lead feels important, but many are only the shadows of the real crime. Back at the apartment, Alex starts muttering strange clues between screams and broken breaths. He talks about mazes, about being somewhere before, about things that sound disconnected and useless. Keller hears enough to stay convinced he is on the right path, but never enough to actually save Anna, and that matters. Because Prisoners is not quietly arguing that torture works. It is showing how violence lies to the person using it. Keller believes that pain will bring clarity. Instead, pain only deepens the fog. It gives him the illusion of control, the illusion of progress, the illusion that he is doing something meaningful while time disappears. That illusion is what destroys him. If you're enjoying this kind of dark, emotional movie storytelling, subscribe to Cinema Trigger. Leave a like and comment the next film you want to see here. This channel is built for intense stories, exactly like this one's stories, where every decision costs something and every answer leads somewhere darker. As Loki continues digging, the case circles closer to Holly Jones, the quiet woman who lives with Alex. Holly does not look dangerous. She looks sad. She looks ordinary. She looks like the kind of person the world overlooks every day, and that is exactly why she is so frightening. Prisoners understands that evil does not always arrive looking monstrous. Sometimes it arrives looking wounded. Sometimes it hides behind stillness, politeness, and grief so old it is hardened into something unnatural. Loki visits Harley's house and notices small details that feel wrong in a way he cannot yet explain. A maze pendant, odd behavior, tiny inconsistencies, nothing explosive. Just enough to leave a stain on his instincts. At the same time, Keller is deteriorating. He is exhausted, paranoid, filthy, and barely recognizable. Then he hears something that cuts through everything: a whistle. Earlier in the story, Keller had given Anna a whistle for emergencies. It was a simple fatherly gesture, a tiny protective measure. Now that whistle becomes the thread leading him toward the truth. It points him to Holly's house. Keller goes there alone, and this is where the story reveals its ugliest truth. Holly drugs him and explains what has really been happening. Years earlier, she and her husband lost their own child to cancer. The grief shattered them, but instead of mourning, they chose revenge. They declared war on God by kidnapping children and making other parents suffer the way they had suffered. Alex was one of those stolen children. He was not the mastermind. He was another victim. Joy and Anna were simply the latest targets in a long history of cruelty, dressed up as vengeance. Suddenly, everything clicks into place. The old missing child cases, the maze, imagery, the damaged suspects, the fragments Alex kept muttering, the strange energy inside Holly's house. It all leads back to one terrible truth. The horror was sitting behind the face of ordinary sorrow. But Keller does not get the heroic confrontation he imagined. Jet Burid. Holly shoots him, drags him outside, and dumps him into a hidden pit beneath an old car in her yard. Then she leaves him there. It is one of the cruelest reversals in the entire film. Keller built a prison for Alex. Now Keller becomes a prisoner himself, trapped underground, bleeding, weak, and alone. He's finally forced to feel what helplessness really is. Not helplessness as anger, not helplessness as violence, helplessness as silence, as darkness, as the unbearable realization that control was an illusion from the beginning. While Keller is buried alive, Loki keeps following the last instincts, pulling him toward Holly. He returns to the house. He looks harder. He listens longer. He sees what others missed. And finally, he understands. Holly tries to kill him, but Loki shoots her and rescues Joy. After everything, one little girl is found alive, but Anna is still missing, and Keller is still underground. What makes this section of the film so powerful is that it refuses easy relief. Joy being found does not wipe away what happened. It does not erase Keller's crimes. It does not erase Alex's suffering. It does not repair the families. It only proves that survival and restoration are not the same thing. Then comes the ending, one of the strongest endings in modern thriller cinema. The police move through Holly's property. The case appears to be closing. But Detective Loki stays. Something keeps him from leaving. Maybe instinct. Maybe unease. Maybe the quiet understanding that solved and finished are not always the same thing. Then he hears it. A whistle. Faint. Distant. Easy to miss, but real. Keller is still alive beneath the ground, and the film cuts off there. No triumphant reunion. No final speech. No neat, emotional release. Just the sound of a man buried under the consequences of his own choices, waiting to be found. That ending is brilliant because it gives us hope without cleansing the story. Keller may survive. Anna may survive, but no one gets to walk away untouched. Prisoners is not interested in pretending that Rescue erases damage. It is interested in the cost of fear, the cost of obsession, and the cost of trying to force justice through cruelty. The title itself says everything. Anna and Joy are prisoners. Alex is a prisoner of trauma, theft, and a childhood stolen so long ago he barely remembers who he was supposed to be. Grace is a prisoner of despair. Franklin is a prisoner of guilt. Keller is a prisoner of rage. Loki is a prisoner, in his own quieter way, of the endless human cruelty he keeps having to witness. Even Holly is imprisoned by grief that calcified into hatred. Nobody in this story is free. That is why the film feels so suffocating. The basements, locked rooms, cars, and pits matter. But the real prison is internal. It is fear. It is memory. It is moral collapse. It is what happens when pain becomes the lens through which every decision is made. There's also something ruthless about how the film handles time. Every minute matters, and the movie makes sure you feel it. Clocks are never the focus, but urgency is everywhere. In the way Keller snaps at people, In the way Grace stares into nothing. In the way Loki keeps moving even when every lead seems rotten. Time becomes another villain. Because the longer the girls are missing, the more everyone starts changing. Keller starts believing that action itself is virtue. If he is doing something, then he must still be a good father. He must still be fighting. But Prisoners quietly exposes the lie beneath that thinking. Motion is not the same as progress. Intensity is not the same as truth. Panic feels righteous because it hurts, because it burns, because it makes stillness unbearable. But panic also narrows vision. It makes one clue feel like the only clue. It turns suspicion into certainty. It tells a suffering person that doubt is weakness. And once Keller accepts that lie, every brutal choice becomes easier to justify, even when those choices drag him further away from saving anyone before it is far too late. The movie also uses faith in a brutal way. Keller begins as a man who believes in discipline, prayer, and preparedness. Holly and her husband turn their grief into a war against God. The priest hides a body. The language of sin, punishment, guilt, and salvation keeps colliding with acts of cruelty. Prisoners does not mock belief. It does something more unsettling. It asks what belief is worth when horror arrives anyway. And then it asks an even harder question. What are you capable of when the person you love most is taken from you? That is the real maze in Prisoners. Not the drawings, not the clues, not the hidden rooms. The real maze is the human soul under pressure. The real maze is grief. The real maze is love becoming obsession. Keller believed he was prepared for disaster. He had plans, tools, training, faith, but he was not prepared for discovering the person he could become when his daughter vanished. He could survive fear. He could not survive helplessness. So he turned helplessness into violence and called it purpose. That is why the story lingers, because it does not let the audience feel morally superior for long. It makes us judge Keller, then it makes us understand him, then it makes us fear him. Then, somehow, it makes us pity him too. Very few thrillers manage that kind of emotional whiplash without losing control, and that is why Prisoners remains so haunting. It is not just a mystery. It is not just a kidnapping story. It is a story about damage spreading from one act of evil into every heart it touches. It is about how suffering infects families, friendships, ethics, faith, and identity. It is about how panic can make movement feel righteous, even when it leads in the wrong direction. And most of all, it is about the terrifying truth that monsters are not always born. Sometimes they are built slowly, painfully, out of fear, love, loss, and the refusal to feel powerless. Detective Loki matters because he represents the opposite response to horror. He suffers too, but he channels that suffering into patience instead of fury. He watches. He notices. He endures uncertainty without letting uncertainty own him. Where Keller explodes, Loki absorbs. Where Keller forces, Loki listens. Where Keller becomes a prisoner of emotion, Loki stays disciplined enough to hear one tiny whistle at the end of the world. That is what saves the case. Not rage, not torture, not certainty. Attention, persistence, restraint. And that contrast is the final wound the movie leaves behind. The father's love is real, but love alone is not enough. Good intentions are not enough. Pain is not proof of righteousness. Sometimes, the person acting with the most emotional intensity is also the person destroying the very thing he hopes to save. That truth is almost unbearable, and that is exactly why Prisoners works so well. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to Cinema Trigger for more movie recaps, told like intense, unforgettable stories. Leave a like if Prisoners deserves to be remembered as one of the most devastating thrillers ever made. And comment the next movie you want on the channel, because the most powerful stories are not the ones that comfort us. They are the ones that force us to stare into the dark and recognize something staring back.